The medical ship Hope's Light moved slowly through the dark space between two fighting armies. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge watching the stars. She had gray hair and tired eyes from 15 years of running hospital ships. The war between the Zelvani and Krynoth people had been going on for 3 years now. Her ship carried wounded soldiers from both sides. That was the rule. Medical ships helped everyone. It did not matter which side they fought for. The ship was painted white with big red crosses on every side. Every species in the galaxy knew what those symbols meant. They meant safety. They meant healing. They meant no weapons. Linda had seen terrible things in her years as a captain, but she believed in the rules. Even enemies respected medical ships. That was how civilization worked. Lieutenant Jake Morris sat at the communication station. He was young with brown hair and quick fingers on the controls. He looked up at Linda and smiled. The Zelvani ships know we are here. The Krynoth ships also sent acknowledgement. We are clear to pass through the combat zone. Linda nodded and drank her coffee. Good. How are the patients doing? Dr. Peter Grant walked onto the bridge holding a data pad. He was the chief medical officer and had been saving lives for 20 years. The critical cases are all stable now. The Krynoth soldiers we picked up yesterday are responding well to treatment. We should reach the neutral station in about 18 hours. Linda looked at the star map on her screen. 18 hours. Then they would unload the wounded at the safe station and go back into the war zone to pick up more. That was the cycle. Save who you can, move them to safety, go back and save more. She had done this hundreds of times. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Ensign Amy Clark worked at the sensor station. She was the youngest crew member at only 22 years old. Her red hair was pulled back tight. Suddenly she sat up straight. Captain, I have a contact on sensors. It is a Zelvani heavy cruiser. The ship name is Talon's Edge. They are holding position at the edge of the safe corridor. Linda set down her coffee cup. Hail them, Jake. Send our medical status again, just to be sure. Jake's fingers moved fast across his panel. Sending now, Captain. His face changed. They are responding. Audio only. The alien voice came through the speakers. The computer translated it into English. Human vessel Hope's Light. We acknowledge your medical status. Your passage is recognized under Galactic Council protocols. Linda spoke clearly. Thank you, Commander. We are carrying wounded from both Zelvani and Krynoth forces. Our destination is Station Mercy 7. There was a pause. Understood. Safe travels, Hope's Light. The connection ended. Linda picked up her coffee again. See? Even in war, some things stay civilized. She took a sip. Amy's voice cut through the calm like a knife. Captain, the Talon's Edge is charging weapons. All weapon systems are powering up. Energy levels are spiking. Linda's hand froze with the cup halfway to her mouth. What? Jake, open a channel right now. Jake's face went pale. Channel open, Captain, but they are not answering. Linda's voice stayed calm even though ice filled her stomach. Raise shields. All hands brace for impact. Broadcast our medical status on every frequency we have. The Hope's Light's defensive screens came online. They were not strong shields. Medical ships did not carry military-grade defenses. That was part of the rules. Peter grabbed onto a rail. Linda, we have patients in surgery right now. We cannot make evasive moves. Linda looked at him. I know, Peter. Amy's sensors screamed warnings. Multiple plasma torpedoes incoming. 20 seconds to impact. Linda pressed the ship-wide intercom. All decks, this is the captain. She paused. What could she say? What words mattered now? I need you to know that serving with you has been the greatest honor of my life. The first torpedo hit the left side of the ship. It tore through the shields like paper through air. The explosion ripped through the medical bays where wounded soldiers from both sides were sleeping in their beds. Zelvani and Krynoth dying together. The second torpedo hit the engine room. The power core started to break apart. Linda watched her screens go dark one by one. 700 people on her ship. 700 doctors and nurses and medics. 700 people who had spent their lives healing others. She thought about her Uncle Greg, who was an admiral. She thought about the message she had sent him last week about a new surgery technique. The ammunition storage exploded. The Hope's Light became a ball of white fire that lit up the dark space for just a moment. Then it was gone. Only debris remained. Medical equipment floating in space. Bodies in white uniforms. a stuffed toy that one of the nurses kept on her desk. 40 light-years away on Earth, deep under the ground, Admiral Greg Fisher stood in the military command center. He was 68 years old with white hair and a face carved by hard decisions. An automated distress signal came through. He watched the Hope's Light's life signs on his display. He watched them all go to zero. His aide, Commander Luke Barnes, stood next to him. "Sir, initial reports indicate deliberate fire from a Zelvani cruiser. The Hope's Light was broadcasting medical status on all frequencies." Greg stared at the empty screen where his niece's ship used to be. Linda had called him Uncle Greg even after she made captain. She had been so excited about her work. So proud to serve on a hospital ship. "Get me the president." Greg's voice was quiet but cold. "Tell her it is time to remind the galaxy why you don't touch our medics." Luke hurried away to make the call. Greg stood alone in the command center looking at the data. 700 people murdered while trying to save lives. 700 healers killed while treating the wounded. This was not an accident of war. This was not a stray shot. This was a choice. The Zelvani had made a choice. Now humanity would make one too. Within an hour, emergency meetings started on Earth. The president was briefed. The military prepared options. The news spread across the planet. A hospital ship destroyed. All crew lost. Deliberate attack. The word went out to every human colony and every human ship. The Hope's Light was gone. But what came next would echo across the galaxy for generations. The United Earth Parliament met 2 hours after the Hope's Light died. President Catherine Blake walked to the speaker's platform. Her face looked like it was made from stone. The holographic screens around the chamber showed the debris field. Pieces of what used to be a hospital ship floated in the darkness of space. 700 personnel. Catherine's voice was hard and cold. Doctors, nurses, medics, surgeons, they were not soldiers. They carried no weapons. They flew under the protection of every galactic law and treaty, and they were murdered. The Parliament chamber was silent. Representative Helen Cole was crying quietly in her seat. Her daughter had been a nurse on the Hope's Light. She was 26 years old. Now she was gone. Catherine continued speaking. The Zelvani Collective has issued a statement. They claim the attack was a tragic mistake, a rogue commander acting without authorization. They offer compensation and apologies. She paused. Her hands gripped the podium so hard her knuckles turned white. "I say their apologies are not enough." Admiral Greg Fisher stood up from his seat. He was the oldest admiral in the fleet. He had fought in 17 major battles over 46 years. His face showed every hard decision he had ever made. "Madam President, members of Parliament, I have served this fleet since I was 22 years old. I have ordered attacks that still haunt my dreams, but I have never once authorized fire on a medical vessel." He stopped and looked around the room. There are lines that cannot be crossed. When someone crosses them, they must learn why those lines exist. General Kevin Shaw stood next. He commanded the Earth Marine Corps. The Galactic Council is calling for restraint. They want investigations and committees and diplomatic solutions. Meanwhile, the Zelvani commander responsible has been quietly promoted and transferred. This is how they treat the murder of our healers. The debate went on for 6 hours. Some members called for sanctions and legal action. Others demanded immediate military response. Videos played showing the Hope's Light on previous missions. Linda Hayes smiling as she welcomed wounded soldiers onto her ship. Doctors working to save a Kreenoth warrior who had been burned in battle. Nurses singing birthday songs for a young pilot who turned 20 while recovering from injuries. When the vote finally came, it was almost unanimous. Earth would go to war. Above Mars in the fleet staging area, Captain Ryan Foster received his orders. He stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Vengeance. The ship was new with weapons that made other species nervous. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. They knew how to build things that killed efficiently. All department heads report to the briefing room. Ryan was 42 years old. Young for a battlecruiser captain, but he had earned his rank fighting the Kreenoth in the border wars. Commander Nina Wells was already in the briefing room when Ryan arrived. She was his second in command. "Captain, we are being assigned to Battle Group 7. 12 heavy cruisers, 6 battlecruisers, 2 carriers. The Vengeance will be the flagship." Ryan looked at the star map. Their target glowed on the display, the Zelvani home system. "They are not holding back." Nina's face was grim. "No, sir. Admiral Fisher wants this to be unmistakable. The order is direct. The Zelvani military is to be neutralized with extreme prejudice. Lieutenant Paul Carson came in next. He was the weapons officer. Captain, I have been reviewing our targeting priorities. The intelligence package is very detailed. Show me, Ryan said. The hologram changed to show the Zelvani home system, a yellow sun with 6 planets. 2 of them had populations. The third planet, Zelvan Prime, held their capital and military headquarters. Paul pointed at different locations. The Zelvani have 14 orbital defense platforms. Each one equals a heavy cruiser in firepower. Their home fleet has 8 battleships and about 40 support vessels. On paper, they outnumber us significantly. On paper, Nina repeated. But they have never faced a coordinated human assault. Ryan nodded slowly. Humanity had learned warfare the hard way, fighting themselves. For thousands of years, they had perfected the art of killing their own kind. When they reached the stars, they brought that knowledge with them. Lieutenant Carla Hayes entered last. She was the ship's doctor. What about civilian casualties? Her brother had died on the Hope's Light. He had been a medic. Ryan looked at her. Rules of engagement are strict. Military targets only. But those targets include every ship and station and facility capable of supporting military operations. The Zelvani are going to learn the difference between a mistake and deliberate policy. The briefing continued for another hour. Charts showed approach vectors. Lists detailed every target. Backup plans covered contingencies. When it ended, Ryan stood and addressed his crew over the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is the captain. In 6 hours, we depart for the Zelvani home system. I will not lie to you about what we are facing. The Zelvani are a warrior culture with a military tradition spanning thousands of years. They are experienced and disciplined and well-armed. He paused and looked out at Mars through the window. But they made one critical mistake. They forgot that before humans were explorers and before we were diplomats or traders, we were survivors. We are a species that conquered our own world 100 times over, and now they will learn what that means. Ryan's voice grew colder. They killed our healers. They murdered people who existed only to save lives. The Galactic Council can debate and investigate all they want. We are going to deliver a different kind of verdict. Throughout the fleet, similar speeches happened on dozens of ships. On the carrier, Thunderchild Admiral Fisher addressed his strike group commanders through holographic conference. The objective is simple. When we are finished, the Zelvani Collective will not have the military capacity to threaten anyone for a generation. We are going to break them so thoroughly that every species in the galaxy will remember what happens when you attack a human medical ship. Captain Steve Price of the heavy cruiser, Defiant, raised his hand. Admiral, some of the other council races are expressing concern about our response. The Turellians have formally requested we reconsider. Fisher's face did not change. Captain Price, the Turellians lost a medical ship to pirates 40 years ago. They filed protests and investigations. They are still waiting for justice. We do things differently. Yes, sir, Steve replied. His voice carried fierce pride. The conference ended. Fisher sat alone in his office looking at the personnel files of the Hope's Light crew. 700 faces looked back at him. Linda's photo was in the front row. She was smiling in her captain's uniform. He remembered her graduation from the academy. He remembered her first command. He remembered the last message she had sent him talking about a new surgery technique. Computer. Record a message for the fleet. The recording light came on. This is Admiral Fisher to all personnel of Task Force Retribution. In a few hours we will cross into Zelvani space. What we do there will echo through history. Some will call us vengeful. Some will call us monsters. Let them. We are the answer to a simple question. What happens when you murder those who exist only to heal? Remember the Hope's Light, remember why we do not forgive this, and show them why humanity's mercy is a gift, not a weakness. The fleet began to move, ships from Earth and Mars and the outer colonies, all heading toward one destination. The Zelvani were about to learn a lesson written in fire. The Zelvani home system of Zelvan Prime had never been attacked in 3,000 years. Defense platforms circled the inhabited worlds. The home fleet patrolled with confidence born from centuries of safety. Nobody had ever dared to strike at the heart of the collective. Admiral Kreshtor stood on the bridge of the battleship Pride of Zelvan. His dorsal crest was raised high as he reviewed the morning reports. The humans had protested the destruction of their medical vessel. That was expected. The diplomats would handle it with reparations and apologies. Maybe a tribunal for Commander Veshkan, who had fired on the hospital ship. Then everything would return to normal. Admiral, His sensor officer called out. We are detecting multiple hyperspace ruptures at the system boundary, significant energy signatures. Kreshtor's crest lowered slightly. Identify them. Analyzing now. The officer's voice grew uncertain. Configuration matches human military vessels. Counting 12 contacts, 15, 20. Admiral, it is an entire battle group. The bridge went silent. Every officer turned to look at their commander. This was impossible. Nobody attacked a council member's home system over a single incident. Battle stations. Kreshtor ordered. His voice stayed steady, but his secondary hearts were beating fast. Activate all defense platforms. Recall all patrol elements to defensive positions. And get me a channel to the human commander. The tactical display showed the human fleet entering normal space in perfect formation. They were heading straight for Zelvan Prime. Kreshtor had never seen anything like it. 20 warships appearing at once with obvious hostile intent. Channel open, Admiral. The communications officer reported. Human commander, this is Admiral Kreshtor of the Zelvani Collective. You are entering our sovereign space with military forces. Explain your intentions immediately, or we will consider this an act of war. The response came from a human female. Her voice was cold and hard. Admiral Kreshtor, this is Admiral Fisher commanding Task Force Retribution. Your forces destroyed the medical frigate Hope's Light and murdered 700 unarmed personnel. We are here to deliver consequences. You have 2 hours to evacuate all non-military personnel from orbital facilities and alert your civilian population to seek shelter. After that, we will begin operations. Kreshtor's crest flared with shock and anger. This is outrageous. The commander responsible has been disciplined. The collective has offered full reparations. You cannot attack a council world over a single mistake. Watch us, Fisher replied. Then the channel closed. 2 hours later, the Zelvani home fleet moved to intercept. 8 battleships and their escort vessels formed a defensive line between the human fleet and Zelvan Prime. Kreshtor had called for reinforcements from neighboring systems, but they would take days to arrive. For now, he had to hold with what he had. All ships maintain formation, he ordered. Humans are impulsive and aggressive, but they are not stupid. Once they see our defensive strength, they will negotiate. On the Vengeance, Captain Ryan Foster watched the Zelvani fleet deploy. Classic defensive posture, he said to Nina. They are thinking like this is a game of chess. They do not understand what is coming. Nina said quietly. No, Ryan agreed. They really do not. All ships, this is Vengeance Actual. Execute battle plan Hammerfall. Focus fire as designated. No warnings. No posturing. Just hit them. The human fleet split into 3 groups. Each group was led by a battlecruiser. The Vengeance group dove toward the Zelvani left flank, accelerating to speeds that made sensors scream. The other 2 groups arced high and low, creating a 3-dimensional trap. They are attempting a pincer movement, Kreshtor's tactical officer reported. Recommend we concentrate fire on the center group and break through. But before Kreshtor could give the order, the human ships opened fire. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting naval warfare on Earth's oceans. They understood crossfire and encirclement and concentration of force. When they took those lessons to space, they adapted rather than abandoned them. The Zelvani battleship Eternal Glory took the first salvo from 3 human cruisers at once. Railgun rounds moving at huge fractions of light speed punched through its shields. Missiles followed. Each warhead contained plasma charges that burned through armor like acid. Eternal Glory broke apart in seconds. Impossible, Kreshtor whispered. His display showed the battleship simply ceased to exist. Their weapons. How are they so precise? He did not know that human targeting systems were based on centuries of trying to hit other humans who had spent just as long learning to dodge. The Zelvani ships moved in predictable patterns. Their defensive tactics were designed for fighting other council races who all used the same strategies. The humans fought like nothing the Zelvani had ever seen. Their ships moved in coordinated swarms. Each vessel supported others in overlapping fields of fire. When a Zelvani battleship tried to target a single human cruiser, 2 others would appear on its flanks, hammering at weak points. All ships reform on my position, Kreshtor ordered desperately. Present unified front, but the human fleet did not allow it. Small fighters launched from the carriers moved at impossible speeds, darting through the Zelvani formation. They disrupted communications and targeting systems. When the Zelvani ships tried to group together, the humans deployed mines that forced them to scatter. When they scattered, concentrated fire picked them off one by one. Admiral Fisher watched from the Thunderchild's command center. Commander Luke Barnes stood beside him providing updates. Zelvani flagship is attempting to withdraw. Fourth defense platform is offline. Enemy fighter screen is collapsing. Captain Foster's group is performing well. Fisher observed. Tell him to press the attack on their orbital facilities once the fleet is neutralized. Yes, sir. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Zelvani home fleet had ceased to exist. 6 of their 8 battleships were destroyed. The remaining 2 were crippled and drifting. The orbital defense platforms were reduced to wreckage. Zelvani casualties exceeded 40,000. Human losses were 2 cruisers damaged. 0 deaths. Kreshtor survived. A rescue shuttle pulled him from the wreckage of the Pride of Zelvan. As he watched the human fleet move into position around Zelvan Prime, he finally understood the magnitude of his civilization's error. They had attacked humanity's healers. Now they paid the price. Admiral Fisher's image appeared on every screen across the planet. People of Zelvan Prime. His voice was broadcast to billions. Your military attacked a hospital ship. They murdered healers. They broke the most sacred law of civilized war. Your leaders told you it was a mistake. They were wrong. It was a choice, and choices have consequences. The hologram showed footage from the Hope's light debris field. Bodies floating in space. Medical equipment scattered among the wreckage. A child's toy drifting alone in the void. For the next 30 days, your orbital space belongs to us. Fisher continued. Your military shipyards will be destroyed. Your weapons manufacturing facilities will be demolished. Every military installation on your worlds will be reduced to rubble. But your cities and homes and civilian infrastructure will remain untouched. You will be left with enough to rebuild, but not enough to threaten anyone. He paused. This is not conquest. This is a lesson. When this is over, you will be allowed to rejoin the galactic community. But you will remember this day. You will remember what happens when humanity's mercy is thrown back in our face. You will remember the Hope's light. The hologram faded. On the Vengeance, Ryan prepared for orbital bombardment operations. His crew worked with grim efficiency. Target package Delta is confirmed. Paul reported. Military shipyard complex. No civilian presence within 15 kilometers. Fire when ready. Ryan ordered. The Vengeance's main railgun fired. On Zelvan Prime, a military facility that had stood for 800 years, simply ceased to exist. The bombardment would continue for a month. Systematic, thorough, the Zelvani military would be broken. 6 weeks after the Battle of Zelvan Prime, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Voices raised in anger and fear filled the air as translators worked overtime. Ambassador Claire Newton represented humanity. She was 56 years old with silver streaking through her dark hair. She had spent 20 years building relationships with other council races. She had worked for integration and cooperation. Now she stood before them defending humanity's most aggressive military action in galactic history. The human delegation will address the council, the presiding arbiter announced. He was a Vorshan elder whose species had founded the council 2,000 years ago. Claire stepped to the central platform. Her image was projected throughout the chamber. Honored representatives, I understand your concerns. What happened at Zelvan Prime was unprecedented in council history. But so was the attack on the Hope's Light. The destruction was disproportionate. Ambassador Thelvar of the Krinoth Empire interrupted. Despite being at war with the Zelvani, even they were disturbed by humanity's response. 700 lives do not justify 40,000 deaths and the crippling of an entire civilization's military capacity. Claire's expression hardened. Ambassador Thelvar, would you like to know how many medical personnel your people have lost to deliberate attacks in this war? 0. Because both you and the Zelvani understood the rules. Medical ships are sacred. When the Hope's Light was destroyed, it was not an accident. It was murder, and it was allowed to happen because the consequences had become meaningless. She pulled up a holographic display. In the past 50 years, there have been 27 documented attacks on medical vessels by various species. The Council's response has been diplomatic protests and reparations and weak sanctions. Do you know how many military officers have been meaningfully punished for these attacks? 3 out of 27 incidents. The chamber grew quieter. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity does not accept this standard. Claire continued. When someone attacks our healers, we respond with overwhelming force. Not out of revenge, though we do not apologize for our anger. We respond because the only way to protect medical personnel is to make the consequences absolutely catastrophic. You speak of protection, Ambassador Quitan of the Tyrellian Union said. Her voice was heavy with sorrow. But what you delivered was devastation. You shattered the Zelvani fleet and destroyed their infrastructure. You left them defenseless. How is this justice? Claire met the Tyrellian ambassador's eyes. Ambassador Quitan, 40 years ago, your medical ship Healing Wing was destroyed by pirates. 342 of your people died. The council investigated for 5 years. They issued condemnations. They imposed sanctions. And in the end, nothing changed. The pirates were never caught. Tell me, Ambassador, how many Tyrellian medical ships have you lost since then? Quitan's translator was silent for a long moment. 2 more, she finally admitted. And how many human medical ships have been attacked in the century since we joined the council? Claire asked. Only the Hope's Light. Quitan said quietly. Exactly, Claire said. Because humanity established a precedent. When pirates fired on one of our hospital ships 30 years ago, we hunted every vessel involved. It took 4 years. We pursued them across 6 systems. And when we found them, we gave no quarter. Word spread. Do not touch human medical ships. The cost is too high. She looked around at all the assembled species. The Zelvani forgot that lesson. Or perhaps they never learned it, because the Council's previous responses taught them that attacking medical ships carried no real consequences. We have corrected that misconception. On Earth, the debate was equally fierce. President Catherine Blake faced reporters in the White House briefing room. A journalist named Sarah Kim stood to ask a question. Madam President, critics are calling the Zelvan operation excessive and potentially criminal. There are calls for Admiral Fisher to be investigated. How do you respond? Catherine took a breath. Admiral Fisher acted under direct orders from the civilian government. Every target was reviewed and approved. Our rules of engagement were strict. Military targets only. Despite destroying the Zelvani fleet, civilian casualties were kept below 3,000, mostly from infrastructure failures. Compare that to 40,000 military personnel who died defending installations whose purpose was to enable future aggression. But Madam President, another reporter called out, the Zelvani are now helpless. What stops their enemies from taking advantage? We are, Catherine replied flatly. What we did to the Zelvani military was not conquest. It was a measured response to an unforgivable act. For the next generation, Earth's fleet will guarantee Zelvani security from external threats, but their military will remain limited by treaty. They can defend their worlds, but they will not have capacity for offensive war. The questions continued for another hour. Catherine's message stayed consistent. Humanity would accept being called harsh, but they would never allow attacks on medical personnel to go unpunished. On Zelvan Prime, the government had collapsed. The previous leaders had resigned in disgrace. Premier Tashvon now led the planet. She was a civilian administrator who had opposed the war from the beginning. She found herself negotiating with the humans who controlled her world's orbital space. Captain Ryan Foster met her aboard the Vengeance. She was escorted by 2 human Marines, though Ryan had insisted no weapons be drawn. Tashvon's crest was lowered in submission and mourning. Captain Foster. She began through her translator. I want you to know that many of us oppose the military's aggression. We argued against the war. We certainly never supported the attack on your medical ship. Ryan nodded. I believe you, Premier. But that does not change what happened. 700 people are dead because your military thought attacking a hospital ship was acceptable. I know, Tashvon said. And now 40,000 of my people are dead in return. Our fleet is gone. Captain, I understand why you did this, but where does it end? How many more must die? No more, Ryan replied. The operation is complete. Your military targets have been eliminated. We will maintain orbital control for 18 months to ensure treaty compliance. After that, we withdraw. You can rebuild. He showed her reconstruction plans. Earth is prepared to provide humanitarian assistance, food and medical supplies and construction materials. We will help rebuild your civilian infrastructure. What we will not do is help rebuild your war machine. Tashvon studied the plans. Despite everything, they were generous. The humans would help repair damage from power plant failures and infrastructure collapse. Why? She asked. Why help us at all? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Because we are not monsters, Premier. What we did was brutal, but it was focused. We broke your military because it needed to be broken. That does not mean we want your civilization to suffer. We want you to remember this lesson, not be destroyed by it. Over the following weeks, human relief ships arrived at Zelvan Prime. The same species that had shattered the Zelvani fleet was now providing food and helping repair power grids. The Galactic Council watched in confusion. Claire explained it simply. Humanity learned long ago that if you want peace, you cannot just defeat enemies. You have to help them rebuild. We call it winning the peace. In the Military Command Center beneath Earth, Admiral Fisher reviewed final reports. The mission had achieved every objective. The Zelvani military was broken, and every species in the galaxy now understood the price of attacking human medical vessels. Commander Luke Barnes entered with news. Admiral, the Council has formally censured Earth for excessive force. It is mostly symbolic. Fisher nodded. Expected. Anything else? Yes, sir. 12 different species have quietly requested human assistance in protecting their medical ships. Apparently, pirate attacks on medical vessels have decreased 70% in the last month. A ghost of a smile crossed Fisher's face. Fear is a powerful motivator. As Luke left, Fisher turned to the memorial wall in his office. A photo of the Hope's light crew hung there. 700 faces. Linda smiled from the front row. We got them, Linda, he said quietly. The galaxy will not forget. I promise you that. 3 years after the Hope's light was destroyed, the galaxy had changed. The medical vessel protection protocols that the Council had debated for decades were now ironclad law. Attacks on hospital ships had dropped to nearly zero. The memory of Zelvan Prime was fresh enough to stop even the most aggressive military powers. On the new hospital ship, Hope renewed Dr. Carla Hayes walked through the medical bays. She had transferred from the Vengeance after the war. She had returned to her first calling as a healer. The ship was humanity's statement that the destruction of the Hope's light would not stop their medical mission. But it was built differently than before. Dr. Hayes. Lieutenant Danny Price called from the communications station. We have received acknowledgement from both Tyrellian and Krynoth fleets in this sector. They are transmitting full security guarantees. Carla nodded, but her eyes went to the weapons locker that had not existed on the old Hope's light. The Council had protested when humanity began arming medical ships, but the protest was weak. Everyone understood now that protection required capability, not just law. Acknowledged, Lieutenant. Maintain standard protocols. The Hope Renewed was not alone in this approach. Across the galaxy, other species had upgraded their medical vessels. The Tyrellians, who had lost 3 hospital ships over 40 years now, had medical frigates that could defend themselves. Even the peaceful Vorshan had quietly added point defense systems. On Earth, President Catherine Blake sat with her successor, Governor Marcus Cole. The election had been close, partly due to debate over the Zelvan operation. But Catherine was satisfied with her decisions. Intelligence reports suggest the Zelvani are rebuilding faster than projected, Marcus noted. Should I be concerned? Catherine shook her head. Admiral Fisher's team monitors closely. Yes, they are rebuilding, but differently. Their new fleet focuses on defense and patrol craft. They are not building battleships that could threaten neighbors. The treaty limits are holding and their attitude toward us. Mixed, Catherine admitted. Some hate us for what we did. Others understand we could have done worse and chose not to. Premier Tashavan has been steady. She understands our response while Harsh was focused and limited. She showed him images of Zelvan Prime. The cities had been rebuilt. Infrastructure was modernized with human help. But the orbital shipyards produced only light craft. The massive military installations were gone. The key is what other species learned, Catherine continued. The Krynoth ended their war with the Zelvani within 6 months of our operation. Both sides suddenly wanted negotiation rather than fighting. Piracy rates dropped across the board. Medical ships move freely now with genuine security. Marcus was quiet. Some historians call you the war president. Does that bother you? Better than the president who let our healers die unavenged? Catherine replied. History will judge whether what we did was right. I believe it was necessary. 700 good people died doing their duty. If their deaths meant nothing, if there were no consequences, then we told the galaxy that humanity's compassion was weakness. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Claire Newton had become an unexpected power broker. Other species came to her for security advice. Recognition that humanity's approach, while brutal, was effective. Ambassador. The Terrellian representative Quitan said during a meeting, "My government is considering joint patrols with human forces to protect medical convoys. Would Earth be interested?" Claire smiled. "Absolutely. We are forming a coalition for medical ship protection. 8 species have signed on. The idea is simple. An attack on any medical vessel is treated as an attack on all of us. Collective response. Collective deterrence." "The Zelvani model," Quitan said softly. "Inspired by it? Yes. But with more precision, we hope. The point is to never need to use it because the deterrent is so strong." On Zelvan Prime, Premier Tashavan addressed her people on the anniversary of the human attack. The broadcast went across the system and to Earth. 3 years ago, we suffered the greatest military defeat in our history. She began. "We lost our fleet and our orbital defenses. Many of you still carry anger. Some call for revenge." She paused, her crest lowered in sorrow. "But I ask you to remember why this happened. Our military attacked a medical ship. We murdered healers who were trying to save lives, including our own soldiers. We violated the most sacred principle of civilized war. And we learned there are consequences." The camera showed a memorial in the capital city. It listed all who died in the human attack, but it also included a separate wall with the Hope's light crew names. "We remember our dead," Tashavan continued. "But we must also remember their dead. We must remember why this happened. If we forget, if we believe we were only victims, then we learn nothing. The humans taught us a harsh lesson, but it was needed." She faced the camera directly. "Today I announce that Zelvan Prime will donate resources to the new Galactic Medical Protection Fund. We will help ensure no other medical ship from any species is ever attacked again. This is our penance. This is how we ensure our dead did not die in vain." The speech was controversial. Many Zelvani resented humanity, but Tashavan's approval remained high because most recognized the truth. They had started this. They were fortunate humanity's response, while devastating, had not been genocidal. Captain Nye. Ryan Foster, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the Sol Defense Fleet. He occasionally reviewed reports from the Zelvan operation when training new officers. "The lesson here," he told cadets, "is not that overwhelming force is always the answer. It is that deterrence only works if consequences are credible and overwhelming." The Council had protocols protecting medical ships but lacked will to enforce them. We provided enforcement. A young cadet raised her hand. "Admiral, some critics say we became what we were fighting, that using such force makes us no better than those who attacked the Hope's light." Ryan considered carefully. "It is a valid question. Here is how I see it. The people on the Hope's light died because they chose to heal. When someone murders such people, there must be consequences severe enough to prevent it happening again. Not revenge, necessity." He showed images from both the Hope's light debris and Zelvan Prime aftermath. "Yes, we inflicted terrible damage. 40,000 military died. That haunts me. But I know in 3 years since attacks on medical vessels essentially stopped. How many healers have we saved by that example? How many future Hope's lights never happened because we drew a line?" The classroom was silent. Ryan continued. "There is an old quote, 'War is cruelty, and you cannot refine it.' What we did was cruel. It was meant to be. Because sometimes the only way to protect mercy is through strength so overwhelming no one dares challenge it." In the hope-renewed medical bay, Dr. Carla Hayes treated patients from 3 species, a Krynoth soldier on one bed, a Zelvani on another, a Terrellian on a third. They eyed each other warily, but none protested treatment. "How are they doing?" Captain Julie Sanders asked. "They will all live," Carla replied. "Amazing what you can accomplish when people remember attacking. A hospital ship is suicide for their entire military." Julie smiled grimly. "Silver lining, I suppose. Though I wish we had found another way. You and me both," Carla said. "But I have talked to medical personnel from other species. They all say the same thing. They feel safer now. The law has teeth. That is worth something. In what had been a Zelvani military academy now converted to civilian university, Professor Kreshtor taught history. The former admiral had survived the battle and spent years trying to understand the failure. The humans did not defeat us through superior numbers, he told students. They defeated us through superior tactics and coordination and motivation. We had spent 1,000 years fighting enemies who thought like us. The humans thought differently. They had refined war through millennia of fighting themselves. A student raised a hand. Professor, was our attack on the Hope's Light truly what caused this? Could we have negotiated? Kreshtor's crest lowered. That question haunts me. Could we have prevented this? Yes. By following the law we swore to uphold. Commander Veshkan chose to ignore it. I chose not to question strongly enough. Our government chose to protect him. Each choice built toward catastrophe. He showed the current Zelvani military, a shadow of former power. This is our reality. We are protected by treaty and human enforcement. We have enough to defend ourselves but not threaten others. Some call this humiliation. I call it a chance at redemption. 5 years after the Hope's Light died, Admiral Greg Fisher retired. His ceremony was held aboard the new Hope's Light II. Hundreds of medical personnel attended along with officers from many species. Ambassador Clare gave the keynote. Admiral Fisher changed galactic warfare culture. He made protection of medical personnel not just principle, but enforced reality. He showed humanity's compassion is not weakness but our greatest strength because we defend it with everything we have. Fisher spoke briefly. I spent 46 years in the fleet. I made decisions that saved lives and cost lives. The Zelvan operation was hardest. I ordered destruction of a fleet and dismantling of military power. That weight stays with me. He paused. But I know in the years since medical ships move freely. Healers work without fear. Protocols once ignored are now sacred. If that was the price, then I believe it was worth paying. The ceremony ended with silence for the Hope's Light crew, then commissioning of the new ship, as it prepared for first mission Captain Linda Martin. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Black Star, staring at the massive view screen that showed the darkness of space. His ship floated silently at the edge of human territory, hidden from all sensors by advanced stealth technology. For 3 months now, they had been watching a war that was tearing apart this part of the galaxy. Captain, we're getting another transmission from the battle zone, said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes from her position at the tactical station. Her voice was tight with anger. It's the Zephyrians again. They just finished attacking the Rimworld. Colonies. Morrison's jaw tightened. The Rimworld colonies were peaceful farming settlements that had nothing to do with the war between the Zephyrian Empire and the Calthran Republic. Men, women, and children who just wanted to grow crops and raise their families in peace. Put it on screen, Morrison ordered. The view screen lit up with images that made the entire bridge crew fall silent. Burning cities, destroyed farms, ships fleeing desperately through space only to be hunted down and blown apart by Zephyrian warships. The aliens showed no mercy to anyone who got in their way. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez shook his head in disgust. Those monsters. They're not even soldiers down there, just families trying to escape. Communications Officer Amy Carter wiped tears from her eyes as she watched a refugee transport explode on the screen. How many people were on that ship? She whispered. Sensors show about 2,000, Hayes replied, her voice barely controlled. Men, women, children, all dead because they were in the wrong place when this war started. Morrison had seen enough. He turned away from the screen. Turn it off. The bridge went dark again, showing only the stars. But everyone could still see those burning cities in their minds. This war had been going on for 2 years now, and it kept getting worse. The Zephyrians and Caltharans hated each other so much that they would destroy entire planets just to deny them to their enemies. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth Command, Carter announced. It's Admiral Karen Phillips, Priority 1. Put her through, Morrison said. The screen flickered, and, Admiral Phillips appeared. She was an older woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Morrison could see the stress of command written across her face. "Captain Morrison, I'm afraid I have bad news," she began without any greeting. "Our diplomatic mission to both alien empires has failed completely. Ambassador Chen tried everything, but neither side will even consider peace talks." Morrison nodded. He had expected this. "What did they say exactly, Admiral?" Phillips looked even more tired. "The Zephyrians told our ambassador that humans are weak insects who should stay out of affairs that don't concern us. The Caltherans said almost the same thing. Both empires think we're too small and pathetic to matter." "And our offer to help the refugees?" Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. "Rejected by both sides. They said any human ship found in their territory will be destroyed on sight. They don't want our help and they don't want us interfering with their war." Phillips paused, then continued. "But that's not the worst part, Jake." Morrison felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "What else?" "Both empires have started attacking our shipping lanes. 3 of our trade vessels were destroyed yesterday. The aliens claimed they were carrying supplies to their enemies." Phillips's voice grew hard. "They weren't. They were just normal cargo, ships carrying medicine and food to our outer colonies." Hayes looked up from her station. "Admiral, how many casualties?" 847 people, Phillips replied, "including the crew of the medical ship Mercy. They were carrying supplies to help sick children on New Boston." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the Mercy. It was a hospital ship that traveled between human colonies, bringing medical care to places that needed it most. The crew were doctors and nurses, not soldiers. Rodriguez slammed his fist on his console. "They killed doctors and nurses, people who were trying to help sick kids." Morrison felt the anger building inside him, but he kept his voice calm. "Admiral, what are our orders?" Phillips leaned forward on the screen. "The Security Council has made its decision, Captain. We tried diplomacy. We tried to stay neutral. We tried to help their victims. None of it worked. Both alien empires have made it clear that they see humanity as weak and easy to push around." She paused, looking directly at Morrison. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." Morrison straightened. "Are we going to war, Admiral?" "We're already at war, Jake. They started it when they began targeting our civilians. But we're going to finish it." Phillips's expression grew cold. "The gloves are off, Captain. Both alien empires think humans are weak because we prefer peace to war. They think we can't fight because we try to avoid fighting." Morrison felt a smile growing on his face. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "They have no idea what we're really capable of." "Exactly. For too long, we've let other species think we're just another weak race that can be pushed around. It's time to show them the truth." Phillips looked at each person on the bridge. "Captain Morrison, you and the crew of the Black Star have new orders. You are authorized to engage both alien empires with full force. Show them what happens when you threaten human civilians." Hayes looked up from her station. "Admiral, are we talking about limited engagement or total war?" Phillips didn't hesitate. "Total war, Commander. Both empires have chosen to target our innocent people. They've rejected every attempt at peace. They think humanity is weak and helpless." Her voice grew deadly serious. "Show them why humanity doesn't start fights. We finish them." Morrison nodded. "Understood, Admiral. When do we begin?" "Immediately. Intelligence reports that a Zephyrian fleet is moving toward the new Denver colony. 43 ships, including 3 of their heavy battle cruisers. They plan to attack the colony in 18 hours. Morrison looked at Hayes. "Time to intercept?" Hayes checked her instruments. "If we leave now and push the engines, we can reach New Denver in 16 hours, sir." Morrison turned back to Admiral Phillips. "We'll be there, Admiral. The Zephyrians won't know what hit them." Phillips nodded. "Good hunting, Captain. And Jake? Make sure none of their ships escape. We want them to wonder what happened to their fleet." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in darkness again. Morrison looked around at his crew. These were good people, all of them. They had joined the space service to explore the galaxy and help protect human colonies. None of them had wanted war, but war had come to them anyway. Morrison walked to his command chair and sat down. Carter, send a message to all departments. Battle stations in 1 hour. We're going to war. Amy Carter's fingers flew over her controls. Message sent, sir. Morrison looked at the view screen where the stars waited silently. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were planning to attack more human colonies. They thought humans were weak. They thought humans would run away when faced with superior numbers. They were about to learn the biggest mistake of their lives. Hayes, prepare the weapon systems. Rodriguez, I want maximum power to the engines. Johnson, plot a course for New Denver. Morrison's voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. It's time to show these aliens what happens when they threaten our people. The USS Black Star turned toward its destination, invisible to all sensors, carrying death toward an enemy that had no idea it was coming. The USS Black Star dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Denver system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching as his sensors detected the approaching Zephyrian fleet. 43 alien warships were moving toward the peaceful human colony, ready to destroy another group of innocent people. Report, Morrison ordered. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes checked her instruments. Zephyrian fleet is 2 hours from New Denver, sir. They're moving in standard attack formation. 3 heavy battlecruisers leading with destroyers and cruisers spread out behind them. Communications officer Amy Carter looked up from her station. Sir, I'm picking up their communications. They're laughing about how easy this will be. They think New Denver has no defenses. Morrison's face grew hard. New Denver was a farming colony with barely 50,000 people. Most of them were families who had moved there to start new lives growing food for other human worlds. They had no military ships, no weapons that could stop a fleet this size. Chief Rodriguez, what's our stealth status? Morrison asked. Chief, Engineer Danny Rodriguez smiled from his position. We're completely invisible, Captain. Their sensors can't detect us. As far as they know, there are no human military ships in this system. Morrison nodded. The Black Star was humanity's most advanced stealth ship. It could move through space without being detected even by the most sensitive alien sensors. The Zephyrians had no idea death was coming for them. Commander Brooks, are our weapons ready? Morrison asked his weapons officer. Commander Ryan Brooks checked his controls. All systems ready, sir. Quantum torpedoes loaded and targeting systems online. Energy cannons charged to full power. Gravitational weapons standing by. Morrison walked to the center of the bridge. For months he had watched these aliens destroy peaceful worlds and kill innocent people. He had seen them hunt down refugee ships and murder children who had done nothing wrong. Now it was time to show them what real power looked like. Dr. Price, remind me how our weapons work compared to theirs, Morrison said to his science officer. Doctor, Helen Price looked up from her instruments. Their technology is based on brute force, sir. Big guns, thick armor, strong shields. They build everything to be as powerful as possible. But they never learned about precision. She pointed to her screen, which showed detailed scans of the alien ships. Our quantum torpedoes can phase through their shields like they don't exist. Our gravitational weapons create artificial black holes that crush their hulls no matter how thick the armor is. And our energy cannons use focused particles that cut through their strongest materials like paper. Morrison smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. And they have no idea any of this exists. Hayes looked at her captain. Sir, the Zephyrian fleet commander is trying to contact New Denver. He's demanding they surrender. Put it on speaker, Morrison ordered. The bridge filled with the harsh voice of the alien commander. His name was War Admiral Zexatai, and he was known throughout this part of the galaxy for his cruelty. Weak humans of New Denver, you will surrender immediately. Your pathetic species thinks it can hide from the mighty Zephyrian Empire. We will show you the price of weakness. Another alien voice joined in, laughing. Look at them, War Admiral. They're not even trying to fight. Humans are the most cowardly species in the galaxy. They run away from every real battle. War Admiral Zextai laughed too. Yes, they talk about peace and cooperation, but that's just because they're too weak to fight. After we destroy this colony, we'll hunt down every human ship we can find. The galaxy will be better without these insects. Morrison had heard enough. Carter, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Amy Carter's hands moved over her controls. Channel open, sir. Morrison's voice was calm and cold. Zephyrian fleet, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Black Star. You are ordered to withdraw. From this system immediately. The alien laughter stopped. War Admiral Zextai's voice came back, confused and angry. What human ship dares to threaten the Zephyrian Empire? Show yourself, coward. Morrison looked at his crew. Every person on the bridge was ready. They had all seen the recordings of alien attacks on human civilians. They had all watched innocent people die because these creatures thought humans were weak. Hayes, drop the stealth field, Morrison ordered. The USS Black Star appeared on every Zephyrian sensor at once. The alien fleet suddenly found themselves facing a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. The Black Star was twice the size of their largest battle cruiser, covered in weapons they didn't recognize, and radiating power levels that made their instruments scream warnings. War Admiral Zextai's voice came over the radio again, but now it sounded worried. One ship? You think one human ship can face the entire Zephyrian battle fleet? We have 43 warships. You have only one. Morrison's smile grew wider. Commander Brooks, show them what one human ship can do. Brooks's hands moved over his. Weapons controls. Firing quantum torpedoes. 6 blue lights shot from the Black Star toward the Zephyrian fleet. The aliens tried to raise their shields and turn their ships to avoid the attack. But the quantum torpedoes passed through their shields like they weren't there and struck 6 Zephyrian cruisers. The alien ships exploded instantly. Their thick armor and powerful shields meant nothing against weapons that attacked at the quantum level. In 3 seconds, 6 enemy warships became expanding clouds of burning metal. The Zephyrian fleet stopped moving. War Admiral Zextai's voice came over the radio, no longer laughing. Impossible. Our shields were at full power. How did your weapons penetrate them? Morrison didn't answer. Instead, he nodded to Brooks again. Gravitational weapons. Target. They're battle cruisers. 3 points of absolute darkness appeared next to the largest Zephyrian ships. The artificial black holes created by human technology began pulling at the alien vessels with impossible force. The thick armor that protected them from normal weapons crumpled like paper. The mighty battle cruisers were crushed into balls of twisted metal in seconds. Now the Zephyrian fleet was trying to escape. Their remaining ships turned away from New Denver and began accelerating as fast as they could. But they were too slow. Energy cannons, Morrison ordered. Don't let any of them get away. Beams of pure energy shot from the Black Star, each one perfectly aimed. The focused particle beams cut through Zephyrian ships like a sword through cloth. Hulls split open. Engines exploded. Life support systems failed. One by one, the Zephyrian warships died. Their advanced technology, their thick armor, their powerful weapons meant nothing against humanity's precision engineering. In less than 10 minutes, 43 alien warships had been reduced to scattered debris. War Admiral Zextai's ship was the last one left. Morrison could see on his screen that the alien commander was trying desperately to send a message to his home fleet, but Carter was jamming all their communications. Zephyrian Commander, this is your final warning, Morrison said. Surrender now or join the rest of your fleet. Zextai's voice came back, filled with fear and rage. This is impossible. Humans are weak. You're supposed to be cowards who run from battle. How do you have weapons like this? Morrison's voice was ice cold. You made a mistake, Zextai. You thought we were weak because we prefer peace. You thought we couldn't fight because we try to avoid fighting. But there's a difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. He paused, looking at the last Zephyrian ship on his screen. We tried to make peace with your empire. We tried to help the victims of your war. You rejected our help and started killing our civilians. Now you're learning what happens when you force humanity to fight. The last Zephyrian ship exploded in a ball of fire. War Admiral Zextai and his crew joined the thousands of alien warriors who had thought humans were easy prey. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew had just won humanity's first battle in this war, but he knew it was only the beginning. Rodriguez, I want those debris fields scattered. Use our gravitational weapons to make it look like the ships had engine failures and exploded on their own. Rodriguez nodded. Already working on it, sir. When other Zephyrian fleets find this wreckage, they'll think it was an accident. Morrison sat down in his command chair. Good. Let them wonder what happened to their missing fleet. Fear of the unknown is sometimes more powerful than fear of a known enemy. Hayes looked at her captain. Sir, what's our next target? Morrison smiled. The Zephyrians and Caltherans had started this war by attacking innocent humans. Now they were going to learn why that was the biggest mistake they could have made. Set course for the Caltheran system of Vorthak Prime. I believe it's time we introduced ourselves to the other side of this war. 2 weeks had passed since the destruction of War Admiral Zextai's fleet at New Denver. The USS Black Star had spent that time moving through space like a ghost, striking at both Zephyrian and Caltheran forces whenever they threatened human colonies, or innocent civilians. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge watching the tactical display that showed the Vorthak Prime system. This was the heart of Caltheran military power, where Admiral Kethmore commanded their most powerful battle group. Today, both alien empires would finally learn who had been destroying their fleets. Captain, we're detecting massive fleet movements in the system, reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes. The Caltherans have assembled over 60 warships around their main base. But there's something else. Morrison raised an eyebrow. What else? Hayes checked her instruments again. Sir, there's a Zephyrian fleet here too, 37 ships. It looks like both empires are working together for the first time in this war. Communications Officer Amy Carter looked up from her station. I'm picking up their communications, sir. They're talking about the mysterious disappearances of their fleets. They think there's some kind of new weapon or unknown enemy attacking both sides. Morrison smiled grimly. For 2 weeks, the Black Star had been systematically destroying alien military forces throughout this region of space. Every time a Zephyrian or Caltheran fleet moved to attack human settlements, they simply vanished. No distress calls, no survivors, no evidence of what had happened to them. Dr. Price, what's the status of our new systems? Morrison asked his science officer. Dr. Helen Price looked up from her instruments with excitement in her eyes. The dimensional phase drive is working. Perfectly, Captain. We can now move through normal space in ways that completely violate alien understanding of physics. To their sensors, we'll appear to be in multiple places at once. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez grinned from his station. And the new weapon. Systems are online too, sir. We've got enough firepower to take on both fleets at the same time. Morrison nodded. The Black Star had been upgraded during their journey to Vorthak Prime. Human engineers working around the clock had installed experimental technology that would make this ship even more devastating than before. Lieutenant Commander Johnson, position. Us between both fleets, Morrison ordered his navigation officer. Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson's hands moved over his controls. Sir, that will put us in the middle of nearly 100 enemy warships. Are you sure about this? Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These people had watched alien empires murder human civilians for months. They had seen refugee ships destroyed and peaceful colonies burned. Now it was time to end this war once and for all. I'm sure, Johnson. Take us in. The USS Black Star moved toward the center of the Vorthak system, still invisible to all sensors. The two alien fleets were positioned on opposite sides of the system, their hatred for each other temporarily forgotten, as they tried to figure out what had been destroying their ships. Carter, open a channel to both fleets, Morrison ordered. Amy Carter's fingers flew over her controls. Channel open to all ships, sir. Morrison's voice echoed across space to nearly 100 alien warships. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Black Star. I am speaking to the commanders of both the Zephyrian and Caltheran fleets. Silence filled the communication channel. Then Admiral Kethmore's deep voice came through the speakers. Human Captain, show yourself. How do you dare enter our system with only one ship? War Commander Vexilon of the Zephyrian fleet added his voice. Yes, foolish human. We have nearly 100 warships here. Your single vessel will be destroyed in minutes. Morrison looked at his weapons officer. Commander Brooks, drop our stealth field and power up all weapons. The USS Black Star appeared on every sensor screen in the system at once. But this time, something was different. The ship seemed to shimmer and shift, appearing to be in several different locations simultaneously. The alien sensors couldn't get a solid lock on its position. Admiral Kethmore's voice came over the radio, confused and worried. "What kind of technology is this? Our targeting systems cannot fix on your vessel." Morrison's voice was calm and cold. "Gentlemen, for months your empires have been destroying innocent worlds and murdering civilians. You rejected our offers of peace. You attacked our shipping and killed our people. You thought humanity was weak because we preferred diplomacy to war." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You were wrong." War Commander Vexilon sounded angry. "Impossible. Humans are the weakest species in this part of the galaxy. You have no real military power. You survive only because stronger races allow you to exist." Morrison smiled. "Johnson, execute Pattern Alpha 7. The USS Black Star began moving in ways that should have been impossible. The ship seemed to fold space around itself, appearing and disappearing at different points throughout the system. To the alien fleets, it looked like there were multiple human ships attacking from all directions at once. "All weapons, fire at will," Morrison commanded. The space around Vorthak Prime lit up with destruction. Quantum torpedoes phased through alien shields and destroyed ships from the inside. Gravitational weapons created artificial black holes that crushed entire squadrons of enemy vessels. Energy cannons cut through the strongest armor like it was made of paper. But the most terrifying thing for the aliens was that they couldn't fight back. Every time they tried to target the human ship, it vanished and appeared somewhere else. Their most advanced targeting computers couldn't track something that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Admiral Kethmore watched in horror as his flagship's sister ship was torn apart by weapons he didn't understand. "This is impossible. No single ship can have this much firepower. How many vessels are you really commanding?" Morrison's voice came back, still calm. "Just one, Admiral. This is what happens when you underestimate human engineering." Within 10 minutes, half of both alien fleets had been destroyed. The survivors were trying desperately to escape, but the Black Star was faster than anything they had ever seen. It chased down fleeing ships and destroyed them one by one. War Commander Vexilon's voice came over the radio, filled with panic. "We surrender, please, we surrender. Stop this destruction." Morrison's voice was ice cold. "You didn't offer surrender to the civilians you murdered. You didn't show mercy to the refugee ships you hunted down. Why should I show you mercy? More?" Alien ships exploded. Admiral Kethmore tried a different approach. "Captain Morrison, surely you don't want to commit genocide. We can negotiate an end to this war." Morrison paused the attack. "You want to negotiate? Fine. I'll give you the same terms you offered our colonies. Unconditional surrender or complete destruction. Choose now." The alien commanders were silent for a long moment. Finally, Admiral Kethmore spoke. "What are your terms for surrender?" Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew had fought bravely to protect human lives. Now they had the chance to end this war and save both human and alien lives. "All military operations against human targets will cease immediately. Both of your empires will withdraw all forces from human space. You will provide full compensation for the civilian ships and colonies you destroyed, and you will submit to human oversight of your military forces until we are satisfied that you can be trusted not to attack innocent people again." War Commander Vexilon sounded outraged. "Those terms are impossible. We cannot accept human oversight of our military." Morrison's voice became deadly serious. "Then you choose destruction." The USS Black Star resumed its attack. More alien ships died, their crews screaming in terror as human weapons tore through, their vessels like paper. The remaining ships scattered in all directions, trying desperately to escape. But Morrison wasn't finished. "Carter, record this message and broadcast it to the home worlds of both empires." Amy Carter nodded. "Recording?" "Sir." Morrison looked directly into the camera. "To the leaders of the Zephyrian Empire and the Caltharan Republic, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Black Star. Your fleets have been destroyed. Your most powerful commanders are dead or captured. This war ends now." He paused, letting the image of burning alien ships fill the screen behind him. "For too long you have terrorized innocent worlds and murdered peaceful people. You thought humanity was weak because we tried to make peace with you. You were wrong." Morrison's expression grew harder. "Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. You have seen what one human ship can do to your combined fleets. We have many more ships just like this one. Continue your attacks on human targets or innocent civilians, and we will end both of your empires completely." The recording ended. Carter began broadcasting it to every world in both alien empires. Morrison sat back in his command chair and looked at the wreckage floating around Vorthak Prime. Nearly 100 alien warships had been reduced to scrap metal in less than 30 minutes. The most powerful military force either empire had ever assembled was gone. Hayes looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, we're detecting emergency transmissions from both alien homeworlds. Their governments are calling emergency sessions." Morrison nodded. "Good. Let them discuss what they've learned today. Johnson, set course for Earth. I think it's time we reported back to Admiral Phillips." As the USS Black Star turned toward human space, Morrison low. 3 weeks after the destruction at Vorthak Prime, emergency alarms rang throughout the bridge of the USS Black Star. Captain Jake Morrison rushed from his ready room to find his crew working frantically at their stations. "Report," Morrison ordered, as he took his command chair. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes looked up from her tactical display, her face pale. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting a massive fleet movement toward Earth. Both the Zephyrian Empire and Caltheran Republic have combined their remaining forces. We're looking at over 10,000 warships." Morrison felt his blood run cold. 10,000 ships was the largest military force ever assembled in known galactic history. How long until they reach Earth? "At their current speed, 4 days, Hayes replied. "Sir, this is their entire combined fleet. Every battleship, cruiser, destroyer, and support vessel both empires have left. They're coming to destroy humanity's homeworld." Communications Officer Amy Carter turned from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up their broadcast transmissions. They're calling this the final solution to the human problem. They plan to wipe out every human in the galaxy." Morrison stood up, his hands clenched into fists. The alien empires had decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Rather than accept defeat, they were gambling everything on one massive attack against Earth itself. "Carter, get me Admiral Phillips immediately," Morrison ordered. The view screen lit up with Admiral Phillips's tired face. Behind her, Morrison could see the frantic activity of Earth Command's war room. "Jake, please tell me you have good news." Morrison shook his head. "I'm afraid not, Admiral. The combined alien fleet will reach Earth in 4 days. They're bringing everything they have left." Admiral Phillips closed her eyes for a moment. "Our home defense fleet has only 300 ships, Jake. Even with our advanced technology, we can't face odds like that." Morrison looked at his crew. These brave men and women had fought alongside him for months, watching him destroy alien fleets with seemingly impossible ease. But even the mighty Black Star couldn't face 10,000 enemy ships alone. "Admiral, there's something I need to tell you," Morrison said slowly. "The Black Star was never meant to fight this war alone." Phillips raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Morrison smiled for the first time in days. "Admiral, the USS Black Star was a prototype. We've been testing new weapons and technology for the past year, but we weren't the only ship being built." Though, view screen split, showing Admiral Phillips and another figure Morrison knew well. Captain Sam Parker appeared, standing on a bridge identical to the Black Star's. "Hello, Admiral," Parker said with a grin. "USS Thunderbolt reporting for duty." Another screen appeared, showing Commander Beth Stevens. "USS Lightning standing by." More screens filled the display. Captain Mike Davis on the USS Storm. Commander Jane Foster on the USS Hurricane. Captain Paul Anderson on the USS Tornado. One by one, dozens of Black Star-class vessels revealed themselves. Admiral Phillips stared in amazement. "How many ships do we have?" Morrison's smile grew wider. 57. Black Star-class dreadnoughts, Admiral. We've been building them in secret shipyards throughout human space. Each one has the same advanced technology and firepower as my ship. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez looked up from his station. Sir, all ships are reporting ready for battle. Weapons charged, stealth systems online, dimensional drives prepared. Morrison turned back to Admiral Phillips. Admiral, we're going to intercept the alien fleet before it reaches Earth. The battle will take place in the Centauri system. Phillips nodded slowly. Jake, are you sure 57 ships can handle 10,000 enemy vessels? Morrison looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson was checking navigation systems. Dr. Helen Price was monitoring the ship's advanced weapons. Commander Ryan Brooks was preparing targeting computers. These people had followed him through every battle, trusting in human technology and determination. Admiral, these aliens have made one final mistake, Morrison said. They think numbers matter more than technology. They think quantity can beat quality. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The transmission ended, and Morrison turned to his crew. Johnson set course for the Centauri system, maximum speed. As the USS Black Star jumped to faster-than-light travel, Morrison opened a channel to all 57 human ships. This is Captain Morrison to all vessels. In 4 days, we face the largest military force ever assembled. The aliens are coming to destroy our homeworld and exterminate our entire species. He paused, looking at the faces of hundreds of human officers on his screen. But they've made the same mistake every bully makes. They think that because they're bigger, they're stronger. They think that because there are more of them, they must win. Morrison's voice grew stronger. They don't understand what they're really facing. Each of our ships represents the best of human engineering, human courage, and human determination. We don't just have better weapons and stronger shields. We have something they can never understand. We're fighting for our families, our children, our future. Captain Parker's voice came over the communication system. Sir, all ships report ready for battle. Morrison nodded. Then let's go show these aliens what happens when you threaten the human race. 3 days later, the combined human fleet waited in the Centauri system. 57 Black Star-class ships hung in space, invisible to all sensors, watching as the massive alien armada approached. Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display that showed over 10,000 enemy contacts. Hayes, give me numbers on their fleet composition. Hayes checked her instruments. Sir, I count 4,000 Zephyrian ships and 6,000 Caltharan vessels, 200 super battleships, 800 heavy cruisers, 3,000 destroyers, and the rest are support ships and troop transports. Dr. Price looked up from her science station. Captain, our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from their largest ships. They've equipped their super battleships with planet-killing weapons. Morrison's jaw tightened. The aliens weren't just coming to defeat humanity in battle. They were coming to burn Earth and every human colony to ash. Carter, are you picking up their communications? Morrison asked. Amy Carter nodded grimly. Yes, sir. The alien commanders are discussing which human worlds to destroy first. They want to make examples of our colonies before they attack Earth. Morrison had heard enough. Carter, open a channel to the alien fleet. The communication system crackled to life. Morrison's voice echoed across space to 10,000 enemy ships. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human fleet. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. Laughter filled the communication channel. The voice of Supreme War Admiral Kethval, the highest-ranking Caltharan officer, came through the speakers. One human dares to order the combined might of 2 empires? Show yourself, Captain Morrison. Let us see this legendary ship that has caused us so much trouble. Morrison looked at his crew one final time. All ships, drop stealth, fields and power-up weapons. 57 human dreadnoughts appeared on every alien sensor screen at once. The massive enemy fleet found itself surrounded by ships that seemed to shimmer and shift through multiple dimensions. The alien laughter stopped immediately. Supreme War Admiral Kethval's voice came back, filled with shock. Impossible. Our intelligence said humans had only one advanced ship. Morrison's voice was ice cold. Your intelligence was wrong about many things. You thought we were weak because we preferred peace. You thought we were helpless because we tried to avoid war. You thought we would surrender when faced with superior numbers. He paused, watching as the alien fleet tried to reorganize itself to face threats from all directions. You were wrong about everything. Supreme Commander Zexthor of the Zephyrian fleet tried to sound confident. 57 ships against 10,000. You are still outnumbered more than 100 to 1. Even with your advanced technology, you cannot win. Morrison smiled grimly. Commander Brooks, show them what human ships can really do. The space around Centauri lit up with destruction unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 57 human ships unleashed their full firepower against the alien armada. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields and destroyed ships from within. Gravitational weapons created artificial black holes that swallowed entire squadrons. Energy cannons cut through the thickest armor like paper. But this time was different. The sheer number of targets meant the human ships could fire continuously without pause. Every second, dozens of alien vessels exploded or were crushed by impossible forces. The alien fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't even locate the human ships properly. The dimensional phase drives made the human vessels appear to be everywhere and nowhere at once. In the first 10 minutes of battle, over 3,000 alien ships were destroyed. The survivors tried desperately to escape, but the human fleet was faster and more maneuverable than anything they had ever faced. Supreme War Admiral Kethval's voice came over the radio, filled with terror. We surrender. Please, we surrender. Stop this destruction. Morrison's voice was merciless. You didn't offer surrender to the families you murdered. You came here to exterminate every human in the galaxy. Now face the consequences of your choice. The battle continued for 1 hour. When it was over, 6 months had passed since the destruction of the combined alien fleet at Centauri. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Black Star as it approached the Zephyrian homeworld of Zephyr Prime. The once mighty planet that had commanded a galaxy-spanning empire now lay defenseless before humanity's power. Captain, we're receiving surrender signals from the planetary government, reported Communications Officer Amy Carter. They're requesting permission to speak with you. Morrison nodded. Put them through. The view screen lit up with the image of former War Marshal Keth Tai, who had once been one of the most feared military commanders in the galaxy. Now he looked tired and defeated, his proud uniform replaced by simple civilian clothes. Captain Morrison, Keth Tai said, his voice respectful. On behalf of the Zephyrian people, I formally surrender our world to human authority. We accept full responsibility for the crimes our empire committed against innocent civilians. Morrison studied the alien leader's face. 6 months ago, this same being had been planning to exterminate every human in the galaxy. Now he spoke of surrender and responsibility. The complete destruction of their military forces had changed everything. Former War Marshal, I want to be very clear about something, Morrison said. Humanity didn't come here to conquer your people or destroy your civilization. We came to make sure you never again threaten innocent lives. Lieutenant Commander Lisa, Hayes looked up from her tactical station. Sir, planetary scans show their military production facilities have been completely shut down as requested. No weapons manufacturing, no warship construction. Morrison nodded. Over the past 6 months, both alien empires had followed humanity's demands exactly. All military forces had been disbanded. All weapons factories had been closed. All plans for aggression had been abandoned. Dr. Price, what's the status of our humanitarian aid program? Morrison asked his science officer. Dr. Helen Price smiled from her station. The medical supplies and food shipments are being distributed successfully, Captain. Both Zephyrian and Caltheran worlds are recovering from the economic collapse that followed the destruction of their war machines. Morrison felt satisfaction at this news. When both alien empires had suddenly stopped all military production, millions of workers had lost their jobs. Entire planets that had depended on building weapons and warships found themselves without purpose. Humanity had stepped in to help, providing food, medicine, and new technologies to help them rebuild their societies. Carter, open a channel to the Caltheran homeworld, Morrison ordered. The view screen split to show both alien worlds. On one side was former War Marshal Kethtai of the Zephyrians. On the other was former Admiral Vexmore of the Caltharans, who had once commanded fleets that terrorized this part of the galaxy. "Gentlemen, it's time to discuss the future," Morrison said. "For the past 6 months, both of your species have proven that you can live in peace when you choose to. Your people have worked together on reconstruction projects. Your scientists have shared knowledge to solve problems. You've shown that cooperation works better than war." Former Admiral Vexmore nodded slowly. "Captain Morrison, our people have learned much from humanity's example. We spent so many years fighting each other that we forgot there were other ways to solve problems." Morrison looked at both alien leaders. "That's why I'm here today with a proposal. Humanity is creating something new. A confederation of worlds dedicated to peace, trade, and mutual protection. We want both of your species to join us." Both aliens looked surprised. Former War Marshal Kethtai spoke first. "You would trust us to join your alliance after everything we did?" Morrison's expression grew serious. "Trust must be earned, but everyone deserves a chance to prove they can change. Your people have shown they want peace. Now we're offering you the chance to help build a better galaxy." Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez looked up from his station. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Morrison nodded. "Put Admiral Phillips through." Admiral Phillips appeared on the screen, looking much more relaxed than she had during the war. "Jake, I have excellent news. The Galactic Council has voted to officially recognize the Human Allied Confederation. We now have 12 member species, including several worlds that were never involved in the war." Morrison smiled. The Human Allied Confederation had grown rapidly as news of humanity's victory spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been bullied by larger empires now saw a chance to join something better. "Admiral, we're making progress here too," Morrison reported. "Both former enemy species have submitted formal applications to join the Confederation." Admiral Phillips nodded approvingly. "That's wonderful news, Jake. The Council has already approved their applications, pending a 5-year probation period. If they continue to demonstrate peaceful intentions, they'll become full members." Former Admiral Vexmore looked hopeful. "What would membership in your confederation mean for our people?" Morrison turned back to the alien leaders. "It means protection from other aggressive empires. It means access to human technology and medicine. It means trade partnerships that will make your worlds prosperous. Most importantly, it means your children will grow up in a galaxy where war is no longer the first solution to every problem." Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson looked up from his navigation station. "Sir, we're receiving reports from our patrol fleets. The Andromedus Empire has been making threatening moves toward the outer rim worlds." Morrison's expression hardened. The Andromedus Empire was another aggressive civilization that had been watching the war between humanity and the Zephyrian-Caltharan alliance. They had apparently decided that with those empires weakened, it was time to expand their own territory. "Have they threatened any Confederation worlds?" Morrison asked. Johnson checked his reports. "Not yet, sir, but they've been massing fleets near the border and making demands for tribute from independent worlds." Morrison looked at both former enemy commanders on his screen. "Gentlemen, this is your first test as potential Confederation members. The Andromedus Empire is threatening innocent worlds just like your empires once did. Are you willing to help us protect those who cannot protect themselves?" Former War Marshal Kethtai straightened in his chair. "Captain Morrison, the Zephyrian people pledge our full support. We have no military ships left, but we can provide intelligence, supplies, and any other assistance you need." Former Admiral Vexmore nodded firmly. "The Caltharan Republic agrees. We have learned that true strength comes from protecting the weak, not conquering them." Morrison felt proud of how far both species had come. 6 months ago they had been planning genocide. Now they were volunteering to help protect innocent lives. "Thank you both," Morrison said. "Carter, send a message to Admiral Phillips. Tell her we're ready to deal with the Andromeda situation." Amy Carter's fingers flew over her controls. "Message sent, sir." Morrison stood up and walked to the center of his bridge. Through the view screen, he could see both alien homeworlds. Cities were rebuilding. Farms were producing food instead of weapons. Children were going to school instead of military training. Dr. Price, give me a status report on the peace treaty negotiations, Morrison requested. Dr. Price consulted her datapad. All member worlds have signed the Mutual Defense and Cooperation Treaty, Captain. The document guarantees that no Confederation member will be left to face aggression alone. It also establishes rules for peaceful resolution of disputes between member species. Morrison nodded with satisfaction. The treaty was based on principles humanity had always believed in. That cooperation was stronger than competition, that peace was more valuable than conquest, and that every intelligent species deserved the right to live free from fear. 5. Years later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Black Star as it patrolled the peaceful Confederation space. The ship's mission had changed from warfare to exploration and protection. Instead of hunting enemy fleets, they now escorted scientific expeditions and responded to calls for help from member worlds. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from New Harmony Station, reported Captain Amy Carter, who had been promoted to serve as Morrison's second-in-command. Morrison smiled at the name. New Harmony Station was a joint research facility built by former Zephyrian and Caltheran scientists working together. It had become a symbol of how former enemies could become partners. Put them through, Morrison ordered. The screen showed Dr. HFY, a young Zephyrian scientist who had never known war. Beside him stood Dr. Vex Lin, a Caltheran researcher. They were working together on medical advances that would benefit all Confederation species. Admiral Morrison, we wanted to thank you personally, Dr. HFY said. Our breakthrough in quantum healing technology wouldn't have been possible without the peaceful cooperation the Confederation made possible. Dr. Vexelin nodded enthusiastically. Our grandparents spent their lives fighting each other. But working together, we've discovered things that will help heal diseases across dozens of worlds. Morrison felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was what victory really looked like. Not destroyed fleets or conquered worlds, but former enemies working together to make life better for everyone. Keep up the excellent work, doctors, Morrison said. The galaxy is a better place because of people like you. As the